motion.
That's in order. Is there a second? Member O'Boyle.
I'll second.
Thank you. Same as before, we'll be voting using reactions, so please vote now. Thank you all for voting. This vote passes. So the agenda has been adopted. All right, so with this, we'll now be moving on to point number 5, the minutes for approval. So the minutes are essentially the written recording of last meeting. And they've also been distributed both in French and in English. So if there are any questions, please make it known at this time. All right, if there are no corrections, the minutes will stand approved as distributed. Okay, so we can now move on to question period. Question period is a moment for all members to just ask questions to the executives or to any member of society. So if you wish to ask a question at this time, please raise your hand. Harold. Sorry about that. So that's the beauty of not having the meetings in person. Please give us a moment. All right, we'll be continuing the meeting at this point. Director Wong.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think for the minutes, I am just member one for at the GA. But I want to ask on that note, what will General Assemblies be transitioning to in person for the upcoming semester? Are there any plans? Thank you.
So for this semester, if we do have another General Assembly, I think the plans that are being discussed are that there would be a switch to in-person, or at least a hybrid mode for the meetings. Other than that, this current meeting hopefully would be the last one that is entirely online. We can have President Wright also mention. Sorry for calling you Director One. I'm, as you can imagine, a bit flustered. President Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, I can also speak to that. With the governance team, which includes the Speaker, we are working towards having future meetings take place in a hybrid format.
Thank you, President Wright. All right, so with this, are there any more other questions on the floor? Please raise your hand. Member Broughton.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was just wondering if there are sort of related to the previous question relating to the meetings moving in person, if there are plans as for how to encourage attendance at these general meetings going forward, because looking through the past record, it looks like other than the special general meeting last April, there hasn't been a quorum at general meeting in seemingly quite a while. I'm just sort of wondering if there's any plans as we move back to an in-person format, which some people find more engaging, if there are any specific plans or concepts being discussed to improve engagement and improve attendance at these future AGMs.
Thank you. If any executive wishes to speak on this, you can raise your hand. President Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm happy to speak to this. So the plans currently that we're looking at to try and increase engagement include having a comprehensive communication strategy around GAs. So we're looking at online and virtual communications to promote the GAs, as well as an in-person and sort of physical component, which includes posting around campus and tabling at every opportunity that we can. And of course, we're hoping that the sort of content that we bring forward at General Assemblies will be engaging, and then that's something that would attract the student members as well. But we are very, very happy to hear any suggestions that come from students around this topic. So feel free to reach out to myself, and myself, as we work with the governance team, will take all of those suggestions into account for future General Assemblies. Thanks.
Thank you. Member Wong.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And as a follow-up to the previous question, the Medical Student Society had their GA back in December, and our attendance was about 20%. One of the reasons that might have attributed to this is incentivization to attend, which included prize draws at the end. My question goes out to Vice President Pizarro, VP Finance. Would it be possible for SMU to potentially incentivize attendance at GAs in the future through, say, gift cards or food at events? Thank you.
Thank you. Vice President Pizarro, if you can raise your hand, I'll unmute you.
Thank you, Director One, for the question. Definitely, it's a conversation that it's a decision that I cannot make myself alone. But the governance team and the executive has to work on it together. But definitely there is an option of food benefit, or like having an event that is more engaging and that student wants to participate more in it rather than an online version.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Please raise your hand. Member Chen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to ask, there's many people that want to join this Zoom meeting right now, and they are in the waiting room. Would you please allow them to come into the meeting? Thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that. We were just fixing the security on the meeting. They'll be admitted in a minute. Member Broughton.
Hi again. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just had one other question sort of related to the procedures and arrangements around the meeting. Is just wondering when exactly, or where exactly, perhaps more to the point, the documents for this meeting, the agenda, the minutes for approval, etc., were posted. Because I looked, I think yesterday or the day before, on the SMU website under general meetings, and there was a section for the 2023 winter general meeting. but there was no agenda, there was no minutes from the previous meeting, as far as I could tell. I even looked on the previous meeting's website and there were none, and none of the texts of the motions or anything like that. So I'm just wondering, was I looking in the wrong place, or were those maybe only posted like later than I checked?
I'm verifying right now. Try to get those for you. That is bizarre. All right, so once you go onto the website, if you go on the General Assembly section, there will be a button called General Assembly 2022-2023 Documents. If you click that button, you'll be able to find the agendas, the standing rules, the reports, and the live stream for both GAs. Let me know if that works, and if that doesn't, we'll be able to find another solution. All right, are there any further questions? Okay, seeing no further questions, we'll be moving on to the motion for approval. So on our agenda, we have one motion. We have the motion regarding Uyghur rights. Could you please have that motion up? Thank you. So this motion has been moved by Member Macy. Member Macy, if you wish to present your motion, please raise your hand. Member Macy, you have the floor.
Hi, so this is the motion on regarding Uyghur rights. It's just being brought up to try to promote a like a better understanding and like a policy for moving forward on how McGill should, and how specifically the SSMU should respond to the Uyghur genocide and this motion will call for divestment from the from implicated companies that we found in our research that are in the yeah, so we are calling for a divestment from implicated companies in the a report that's attached in this motion.
Thank you, Member Macy. If you would please give us 1 minute, we're fixing a technical issue on our end. Shouldn't take more than 1 minute. All right, we should have fixed the technical issue at this point. So now that we've moved on to the presentation, we'll now be moving on to question period. Question period will last 5 minutes. Anybody wishing to ask a question about the motion, please raise your hand. This is your chance to ask any questions about the motion concerning its contents, any opposition you can also ask. And get an answer from the movement. All right, if there's no questions, we'll now be moving on to the debate period. The debate period is the chance to give your opinion about the motion and speak out about your opinion about the motion, your support for it as well. I would highly encourage anybody who wishes to express support to speak during this debate period. Your speaking time is 1 minute. So please raise your hand if you wish to speak.
Member Sachs.
Hi. Sorry, I don't know I'm not great at the formal way of doing things, but I just want to say that I think that as a university, and as members of our university, we have a responsibility to make sure that the endowment goes towards good causes and not towards genocide. And I do think it's super important that SSMU takes a stand, because SSMU is a powerful organization, and with the backing of SSMU, like McGill might listen to us. And I think it's super important that we divest as soon as possible. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Will I be taking any other speakers? Member Flanagan.
Hi there. I'd like to speak just in support of the motion, because I think as Member Sachs just mentioned, the human rights aspects of the motion and the importance of supporting it can't be understated. But there's also an element of financial risk, and there is an element of fiduciary duty that the endowment has to fulfill for investors. So that's another reason why I believe this is extremely important.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak? Member Baggyrow.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do share the opinion expressed earlier by the two members, and I do think that the companies involved in human rights violations should not be provided by funding from McGill. However, I'm concerned that motions that we're trying to approve are not quite as effective to the McGill, because we all know that for many years McGill has been ignoring everything that SSMU has been doing in a direction to divest from those companies. And I think many people would also share my concern that McGill is not trying to divest as soon as possible, even though SSMU is trying to mandate it to do so. I would also love to see more specific measures to do so, to urge McGill to divest as possible, because the complications of violations of Uyghur rights also, as well as the main goal of divest McGill, which is to make it McGill divest from the energy companies which contaminate the environment. I express my hope that this motion, along with everything previously accepted, will have its effect. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak, please raise your hand. Member Broughton.
Yes, thank you. I would very much echo what my fellow members have been saying about the importance of this motion from a human rights perspective, and the problematic lack of divestment on McGill's part in terms of some very problematic investments of theirs. The one note of caution I would add is there is some possibility, albeit slim, that McGill has a similar reaction to this that they did to the boycott, divest, and sanction motion that was actually successfully passed, I believe, by referendum in the last academic year, which resulted in McGill basically threatening SSMU's existence. And I don't think that's necessarily a reason why we shouldn't try, but I do think it's worth keeping in mind as we move to vote and implement it. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Brown.
I'm Leo Brown. I'm the seconder for the motion. I'm working for URAP, And I just thank you for coming. And even though we didn't reach quorum, like our work here is not done, and we plan on taking this to the admin, and we continue to count on your support. And in regards to the previous two comments, the difference between our movement and our plan is that there is broad political support for divestment from investments in China across the political spectrum. There are parliamentary hearings in Canada regarding Chinese investments in Canadian Parliament. Some of the companies that McGill is investing in are on sanctions lists in Canadian sanctions lists. So the government is consensus among the government to support what we're doing. And and this is the first step in our long process. We have research to back us up, and we're looking to bring this straight to the administration. Thank you.
Thank you. So as with most of the periods after a few speakers, I'll ask if there's any motions. But I do see that there's still a member who wishes to speak, so we'll take one more comment, and after that, we'll be taking any points or motions on the floor, and then including a motion to call the question, after which we'll be able to vote. So as our last speaker for the time being, Member Bierberg. Or if you could still raise your hand, I need to unmute you. Thank you. There you go.
Thank you. I'm also part of the student coalition that is putting forward this motion. I also want to reiterate my support for the motion, and also that is our duty as a Canadian and international university to pass this motion to protect Chinese students and Uyghur students, as the genocide has evidently been internationalized in the sense of surveillance on social media through police apparatus, basically showing that Canadian students are not safe from the genocide and from the CCP's plan. So as a university and as a student body that is invested in the safety and well-being of students, it would be in our best interest to pass the motion.
Thank you. At this point, we'll be taking motions on the floor, including a motion to call the question, after which we can enter into voting. So are there any motions on the floor? Member Bierbacher. Maybe that was a hand that was remaining. If anybody else wishes to move to that effect, please raise your hand. If not, we'll be continuing with debate. So all those wishing to speak, please raise your hand. Member Wutsinas.
Can I motion to call the question?
Yes. Thank you. Vice President Val.
Seconded.
Thank you. We'll be voting using reactions on calling the question. Calling the question means entering into voting on the motion. So all those in favor, please vote with the check mark, and all those against with the X. Please vote at this time. Thank you all. With 28 votes for and 1 vote against, we'll now be moving on to voting procedures. We'll be voting by placards at this time since there has been no motion to change voting procedures. This means that we'll also be voting using check marks and X's. This time we'll be voting on the motion itself. So please vote at this time using check mark and the X. Seeing we've reached a majority of votes, we'll be closing the polls in 10 seconds. All right. With 28 votes for, this motion passes unanimously. Congratulations. We can now move on to the next point of the agenda. So next we have the report of the Board of Directors. President Wright, you have the floor to present. If you could please raise your hand, that way I can unmute you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm really happy to be able to present to you the report of the Board of Directors. I do see that it's still loading. Is it okay if I hang on until we can see it on the screen?
Yeah, for sure. We'll try to get that up.
No worries.
It's up.
Yes, perfect. I can see it. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Happy New Year. I'm really happy to present the report of the Board of Directors to the Winter 2023 General Assembly. We can just head to the next slide. Thank you. So an overview of what we'll be going through for the contents of this report. We'll start with an overview of what the Board of Directors is and its key responsibilities. We'll get into some of the key decisions that have been made since the last General Assembly. And then if there are any questions about the contents of the report, I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you. So for this initial part, as I mentioned before, we're looking at the composition, requirements, and powers of the Board of Directors. So the composition of the Board of Directors is as follows. It's composed of 4 executives, 4 counselors who are counselors of the Legislative Council, and 4 members at large. So applications are currently ongoing for members at large on the Board of Directors, and the nominating committee is currently conducting interviews to fill those members at large seats. And the general manager, when we do have someone fulfilling that role, is an ex officio and non-voting member of the Board of Directors. So the requirements to be eligible to sit on the SSMU Board of Directors: you must be a SSMU member, meaning you must be a McGill undergraduate student who's a member of the SSMU. You must be at least 18 years of age. You must be a citizen or a permanent resident of Canada. You must not be bankrupt, and you must not have been declared incapable by a court of serving on the Board of Directors. And you must also not have a criminal record. So to speak to the powers of the Board of Directors, the Board of Directors is the highest governing body of the SSMU, and it's responsible for the SSMU's finance, The first one being the Equity, Diversity, Inclusion Working Group. I'm really happy to have created and drafted the terms of reference for that working group this year. And so it's a new committee that's being brought to SMU. And my idea for this was to have a working group that's tasked with the creation and implementation of the SMU EDI plan. And again, we'll speak to that a little bit further in the project section. But that's a new committee that I'm chairing, and hopefully will co-chair with our new staff member, Equity, Diversity, Inclusion Specialist. The second new one is the SPPR working group, which is the Sustainability Policy and Plan Revision Working Group. And that's one that looks at sustainability policies at the SSMU. And right now we are working on the Sustainable Development Goals plan for the SMU. And that again is something that we'll speak to further in the projects section. And then another new committee that I've created at the SMU is the Commissioners Roundtable, which sees all of the commissioners at the SMU get together. It's chaired by an excellent commissioner at the SSMU, and they discuss a lot of the work that they carry out for the society and share best practices and build community. So those are the new ones that I wanted to highlight. Okay, so getting a little bit more into the role of the president and how it operates within the society. For staff, I do oversee 2 sustainability commissioners. We have the campus crops coordinators who look at communication and events as well. And we also have one that's focused on the daycare, the SSMU daycare. And then I do have 2 secretary generals who are incredible. And then I supervise the governance manager of SMU. I also work with the Vice President of Student Life to oversee the building director. I work with the Vice President of University Affairs to oversee the HR director. And then I also oversee front desk and the SMU executive assistant. Okay, so that took us through most of my role and like the day-to-day. So now I'm gonna look at some highlights of what I have been up to and been working on. Okay, so this also is sort of broken down in terms of the presidential portfolio and the different areas within them. So the first one is leadership and support. And so in this area, I've been working on collaboration with various student associations, again, both at the faculty level and at the association level. So for instance, working with the Max Student Society to make sure that we have joint collaboration on advocacy and projects going forward. Also working on an interfaculty relations policy, and that policy is being built in consultation with various faculties, faculty associations, their presidents, their executive teams, and also their councils at the faculty level, as well as other associations on campus. I'm also working on the pilot grocery program development. So that took place last semester, and most of the semester was spent on research and working with our incredible staff at the SSMU to develop that. I've also been working on the EDI plan with the EDI working group, and also have been giving support to our incredible management team at the SSMU. So that just about wraps up leadership and support. The next part that I'll go over for my portfolio is governance. So we do provide support for the General Assembly, the Board of Directors, and the Legislative Council. So all the preparation that goes into each of these governing sort of bodies and these governing events, we'll say, I work on with the governance team, which I oversee at SMU. Also in the governance section, I serve as the Vice President of the Daycare Board of Directors. And then another thing that I'm quite excited about to be starting for this semester, or this year, I should say, is the EDI policy audit. So this past semester, I did quite a bit of research and was supported by the Secretary Generals and the governance team, as well as some of the equity supports that we have on campus to look at doing an audit from an EDI perspective of all of our governing documents, including our constitution and internal regulations. So we met with various firms and organizations and consultants in this space who were able to provide insight and hopefully will continue to use their supports moving forward to ensure that we have the cutting edge of EDI and equity considerations in our policies and governance. And then also there was ongoing consultation with faculty association presidents on what they'd like to see in terms of governance and MOA and the support that the SMU can provide to them. And then I will wrap up with the human relations part of this portfolio. Support for the HR department took up quite a bit of the focus for this past year. And also we worked to develop quite a few of the procedures and then the trainings in the HR department for staff. Okay, so going into the other parts of the portfolio, sustainability, I mentioned previously, working on the Sustainable Development Goals policy draft. So I am working on that with our sustainability commissioners, and I believe that we'll be working with the Environment Committee as well as we continue to draft this, but we're hoping to bring it to Ledge Council soon. Also working on various initiatives with the sustainability commissioners so that we can support sustainability for students on campus. And we're also working on the sustainability policy renewal, again, with the sustainability commissioners to ensure that we always have a policy that is up to date. For advocacy and representation, as I went through the various committees and governing bodies of the university that I do sit on and contribute to. But again, McGill University and governmental advocacy have been ongoing throughout this past semester. I'll speak briefly to the governmental advocacy as I was able to attend with the Vice President of External Affairs, Ottawa Lobby Week, where we advocated for students in partnership with other student unions across the country. And we looked at asking the government for increased funding for students in a variety of areas and also equity considerations for students. Again, I went over already the different committees and bodies at McGill, but briefly, McGill Senate and McGill Board of Governors advocacy occurred. And then there was specific focus around accommodations, financial aid, equity, diversity, and inclusion. Okay, so I will take you through projects that I have been working on and that I hope to work on. So as mentioned before, we worked on the SSMU grocery program. The pilot groceries program was launched last semester in December. It was a lot of fun and it was really exciting to implement. So we did receive full registration, 200 students were served. They were able to get their vouchers and we did offer them to 3 locations, Lufa Farms, PA Supermarché, and Basta. And we were also able to give the students who registered a free meal. And so we did take all of the learnings and the feedback from that pilot groceries program, and we are building the permanent groceries program at SSMU. So the motions have been drafted, the program fee motion for referendum question, where we'll ask students if they'd be willing to adopt a fee to support the ongoing grocery program. And also there's the grocery program policy itself presented at Legislative Council. So those have both been drafted and we're doing ongoing consultations. Please feel free to reach out to me if you'd like to contribute to the consultations before they're brought forward to Legislative Council. And we're continuing to work with our incredible comms team for research and development on partners, sponsorship, and implementation at SSMU. Okay, and I'm pretty sure this is my last slide, so I'm cognizant of time, but I just wanted to take you through some of the SSMU level policy development that I've been working on. That's really where a large part of my project or my projects this year have been focused on. So in terms of policy development, I've been looking at the EDI plan, again, with the EDI working group, looking at the Sustainable Development Goals plan with the sustainability commissioners, working on the interfaculty relations policy, which is being done in tandem with the President's Roundtable, and then working, of course, on the SSMU 5-year plan with the SAMOSA committee. And so we're hoping to see these policies be completed and then brought to the Legislative Council towards the end of this year. And the hope is that they'll continue to be contributed to and worked on because they are being done in collaboration with various working groups and stakeholders at the SSMU. Okay, that's it. So if anything that I've spoken about today kind of strikes your fancy or you're interested in learning more, please don't hesitate to contact me. My contact info is there up on the slide. And if you'd like to have a chat with me or a meeting, feel free to book my office hours. You can email secgen@smu.ca. Thank you so much and Happy New Year again.
Thank you very much. I'll be taking any questions. Please raise your hand if you have any questions. President Wright. All right, so with this, thank you, President Wright. We'll now be moving on to the next point in the agenda. So next we have the presentation from the VP Internal Affairs. All right, so Vice Chair Williams, you have the floor.
Hi everyone. Hope everyone had a good break. I'll keep this kind of just like short and sweet. My name is Kat Williams. By the way, I go by she, they pronouns. Here's my little presentation. So first off, just overview of my portfolio. I kind of oversee the main things I oversee, which is first year affairs, communications, events, and alumni. My position, like this is just from the Constitution about what my position is in relation to the student body and within society. So as you can see, I'm just like going through it briefly, just like consultation with society members, relations with other faculties and other students, and to like facilitate the communication between these different groups, coordinating events and programming for first years, and also for like activities and events for the whole society as well. So the rest of the students under the SMU, and then also to manage like communications within the society and student engagement. So these are some areas that I've been focusing on over this year relating to my portfolio. So trying to sort out a more centralized calendar within the like SMU website, covering all the different aspects like within the SMU and all the events like we run ourselves. And then I also run the Student Society Programming Network, which is what SSPN doing some events with them. I also send out my lista bi-weekly, which I hope people read. It's very fun. And I've also been working on a social media revamp for the SMU as well over like my term. And I have also started more recently working on alumni events programming that's kind of like kicked off now. So first year affairs, we have weekly meetings with first year council and plan like various events by the first years, for first years. I'm kind of there as more of a guiding person within the group. And these are like social academic or like just more relaxing and like mental health based events. We've also been working on extended mental health product distribution, specifically within first year residences. If you have any questions about first year council, you feel free to email the FYC president, his email is there, or feel free to email me as well. And please follow, keep up to date with FYC on our Instagram or Facebook page. I've like added it there. And then from communications, so as I said, I'm responsible for the lista and the social media for the SMU. And we started the year with revamping the design for both of these. So I don't know if anyone already noticed, but it's just like some slightly newer, updated versions of the lista and social medias. And then I also helped to reorganize all the different social media platforms the SMU has and like streamline the content for what we kind of post on each page. I also started the Day in the Life of a SMU Exec program, which is out on the listservs too, and that's something you can still sign up for, where you can kind of like see the day in the life of what an exec does if you're interested in the position or just like curious about what we do. And also currently in the process of redoing the SMU website as well. And so events, I am the chair of the Student Study Programming Network, as I mentioned, the SMU's event planning committee. So we just had our 4 floors Halloween event last semester. If anyone went, it was a great time. Upcoming, we now have Faculty Olympics and Grad Frosh coming up in May as well. And then I also run the SMU Awards, which will be in like April. That's run by myself and the SMU events team, which is just basically to recognize events of the groups, clubs, and services within the SMU. So real quick, I'm just talking a little bit about Faculty Olympics, which is coming up, and it's one of the biggest events that I run on my portfolio for sure in the winter semester. So our Hype Night is actually next week, Thursday, January 25th. You can find more find more information about it on our Instagram or Facebook pages. I believe the event page for it on Facebook is coming out this evening. And then the actual Faculty Olympics is in March, the week after reading break, from 7th to 11th. And that's when you basically, so there's, you can compete for your faculty, like within a faculty team against other faculties, for this big trophy we have, and for obviously the pride of winning FACO. And yeah, so there's 16 teams, about 800 people total, around different venues around Montreal. If you're interested in being a FACO team captain, the interest group is open right now, and we're deciding this week before the hype night. So feel free to join there or see information if you're interested in that. Some other things as well. So as I said, I do alumni affairs. So I attend MASIC as well every semester, and Life Aid. I put in there, it's just kind of like planning, working like with McGill for events for alumni and planning in-person networking events for all the students after they've graduated. I'm also on the event committee as well. Here's all the Instagram too, and 3 little events coming up. A great one next Thursday, which is like a trivia night. It'll be super fun as well. And there's information on our social medias about that too. And I also sit on the CKUT board of directors, which is the like McGill SSMU run radio station. It's a great way to get involved, and like it's super interesting, and it's been going on for like a long time now. So it's really like fun little thing. And I think that's kind of it. So that's all I had right now about my like portfolio and everything that I do. If anyone has any questions, feel free to like ask away now or reach out to me on my email here. You can also book office hours with me through the link in my listserv as well. Yeah, thank you. I hope everyone has a good semester.
Thank you very much. We'll now be taking any questions concerning this report. All right, so seeing no questions, we'll now be moving on to the next report. The report from the VP External Affairs. Please raise your hand, that way I can unmute you. All right, Vice President Val, you have the floor.
Hi, everyone. So this is my report for External Affairs. It's written bilingually, but I'll just say things in English. But if you have any questions in French, I'm happy to answer them as well. So yeah, this is my report. So you'll be able to find my mandates on these 2 QR codes. So a letter of my mandate and then a summary over there if you want to know more. Basically, if we can switch slides, the mandates are in 4 really areas. Hassan, you can just switch slides. So we have external representation, political campaigns, and 2 other choices. So solidarity and community. I am not doing this alone. I have an incredible team. And so I wanted to showcase them a little bit so they get the credits that they deserve. So first off, we have me as the Vice President External Affairs, Fanta, who's doing policy mobilization research, Zeke, who's one of our External Affairs Commissioner. Next, we have Eve, who's also an External Affairs Commissioner, and Issa. Zeke is there twice. I don't know why, but we'll take it. And then if we switch slides, we have Lola, who's our political campaigns coordinator, Maritel, who's our Black Affairs Commissioner, Anna, our Francophone Affairs Commissioner. We also have people who recently joined the team, so Daphne, who is our new political campaigns coordinator, who just started today, which is really exciting. We are still looking for popular education events coordinator and a community engagement commissioner, and that could potentially be you. So take a look, feel free to apply to any of these 2 positions. Especially the community engagement commissioner position, it's really fulfilling and it's 10 hours a week. So yeah, I put a QR code in there. If you are interested in looking at the job application, we'd love to have you with us. So talking about what I did this semester. So in external representation, We have a few different categories, notably federal affairs. So Rizan mentioned earlier that we went to Ottawa to lobby MPs for student interests. For that specifically, we worked with the Undergraduate of Canadian Research Intensive Universities, UCRU. So we were in Ottawa in like November to lobby for your priorities. When it comes to provincial affairs, which is the next slide, we work with l'Interasociatif, which is a coalition of student association in Quebec. And they are planning a formation congress, in February. And so we will be observing that carefully and reporting back to the SSMU members on that affair. So in provincial affairs, we hosted a bunch of things, the Fall Activist Bootcamp that we mentioned earlier, a town hall on accessible education, and town hall on accessibility more largely in order to orient research. I was able to support the VP Finance in our opposition to the AMF insurance reform, as well as that's it, like help mobilization notably in terms of menstrual justice campaigns at the provincial level, so to the Quebec government. When it comes to municipal affairs, I was able to meet with McGill's government relations officer to discuss partnership, notably in terms of municipal advocacy. So I'm looking forward to strengthening that and see where we can take advantage of our common grounds. As well, one of our mandates at the accessibility policy is to monitor, well, not monitor, but ensure that sidewalks near McGill are accessible during the winter. So we've been advocating for that through the municipal government, and they're asking us to like monitor sidewalks to be able to notify them. So eventually you'll see a poster all over campus with an easy link for you to notify the city when they could do better in shoveling out the snow and putting salt on ice and all of these important things to ensure accessibility. Next, union affairs. So I've been attending the McGill Community Council, supporting various unions who are trying to advocate for a more inclusive campus for the immunocompromised, notably in relation to COVID-19, as well as advocating for students in regards to Law 96. So that's ongoing. If you're interested in that, please let me know. So moving on from external representation, let's move on to community. So in Milton Park, we've been starting the review of the care agreement. Especially, we're trying to include perspective of the Indigenous unhoused population that lives in Milton Park, which has not been done before. We've also mobilized around various suspected hospitals, including the Royal Victoria Hospital. Also in community affairs is affordable student housing. For those of you who might not know, SSMU is currently working on building affordable student housing for students. The Affordable Student Housing Committee has been truly formidable and is super motivated to do research and to advocate for student priorities in terms of housing. Notably, we're collaborating with UCIL on that. And yeah, shortly you should see more information about your housing rights coming up, events, listers, social media posts, all of that. Yeah, very excited about this. Next, also in community, is community engagement. So this is partly what you get to work on if you were to come work with the EA team, and hopefully so much more. So we're helping McGill External Relations Office publicize the McGill External Relations Office publicize the date of volunteering. And as well, we're starting to organize a community engagement day. We're hoping it's going to take place in February after 4 years of absence. This is something that was really big at McGill back then, and we're hoping to bring it back and foster community engagement within the McGill student body with the larger Montreal community. Political campaigns, it's often what you think about when you think about the external affairs portfolio. Climate justice definitely plays a central part in that, supporting Divest McGill, which I assume most of you know about, but also the Stop Line 5 campaign. We've supported mobilization around COP15, helped with McGill's review of sustainability projects fund fee renewal, its ESG questionnaire. We've also connected the VP Finance with students who are advocating for SSMU to change banks and help with research in that regard. In terms of other campaigns, we're supporting the McGill Coalition against Bill 21 and its mobilization. We've done that particularly during the legal appeal, but also now there's a town hall coming up by the university, and they have some really important demands, so we're going to help with that. We help students and Europe mobilize against the Uyghur genocide and in their advocacy towards McGill, notably through the motion today we've supported and helped writing. We've also started doing research on the military-industrial complex and McGill's involvement in it, and we're supporting mobilization for decriminalization of drug possession and around harm reduction. Political campaigns, we're also working with Solidarity Cross Borders and Migrant Rights Network on Status for All, supporting various groups doing prisoner and migrant justice to break isolation during the holidays, supporting Iranian students. If you remember the vigil that happened last semester, attended a sexual violence care presentation in order to be able to better support survivors, collaborating with various student unions to establish mental justice practices. And we're working on a new campaign, a food security campaign. So a lot of exciting things. And yeah, if you need support in mobilizing for whatever, hit me up. Lastly, I wanted to bring the solidarity aspect. So we work closely with a lot of various commissioners, notably in Indigenous Affairs. So I attended the Montreal Indigenous Network Strategy launch, also collaborated with the Indigenous Affairs Commissioner on multiple projects, including education initiatives and charity initiative for Resilience Montreal. Collaborating with them also, currently I'm creating a funding application for the Indigenous Equity Fee and asking for a more complete Indigenous Studies program. When it comes to Black Affairs, I'm obviously supporting the Commissioner. I've supported them in the Black Marketplace that took place, and also in the implementation of the Black Affairs Committee, which is currently running and doing amazing. Supporting the Commissioner in their advocacy and projects. Currently, they are recruiting pieces for the Black Affairs magazine they're going to launch soon, as well as Black History Month is coming in February. Sorry about that. And also supporting the Coalition Defund the Police and the Black Student Network in their mobilization against more cops in school and against the new SPVM budget increase. When it comes to Francophone Affairs, j'ai supporté la commissaire pour créer un dépliant informatif et réviser le plan de francisation. Et je l'ai également supporté dans l'intégration de la communauté étudiante dans le processus de traduction de l'AEUM. En ce moment, c'est ça, on travaille sur la révision du plan de francisation pour l'AEUM. Alors, si vous êtes francophone et avez des besoins quelconques que vous voulez être entendu, ou même si vous n'êtes pas francophone mais êtes intéressé par ce sujet, on aimerait bien entendre vos voix. A little more on solidarity, we've been supporting Cooperg, notably through their Culture Shock event series. In winter, there's going to be another event series focused on social justice, so I'm looking forward to seeing you all there. And lastly, I've been working with the Accessibility Commissioner and other execs to organize an Accessibility Week from January 23rd to 27th. As the other executives, I sit on a lot of committees, notably funding, gender sexuality, affordable student housing, Francophone Affairs, Indigenous Affairs, Black Affairs, Nomination Committee, Governance Reform Committee, and the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Working Group that Razan mentioned earlier. There are some important dates coming up that I wanted to share with you, if you're still with us. So events not to be missed. We have a food security mobilization meeting, our first one, January 18th at 5:30 at the University Center. And this event, there will be food, and we will be able to discuss what we want to do to increase food accessibility on campus and food security on campus. So I'm hoping to see you there. We also have other important events coming up, notably a mobilization meeting against police violence on the 19th. Legislative Council, which is this Thursday. The following week, we have the Accessibility Week I've been working on, so you'll see various information in that regard soon. And January 31st, we have a workshop on McGill's involvement in the military industrial complex, so I'd love to see you there. if you want to know more, you can follow us on social media. We have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and it's often really on the main SMU account. You can find SSMU AEUM on Instagram. So yeah, I went really fast on this. So I'm happy to repeat anything or answer any questions. Thanks.
Thank you very much. We'll now be taking any questions. Member Brompton.
Yes, hi, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just had a question, just because my, admittedly, I apologize if it's a somewhat foolish question. I'm a law student. We don't always do best at following SMU affairs. So just my ears perked up a bit when you mentioned liaising with when it was mentioned that this position liaises with the municipal government as well as the provincial and federal ones. If I had an issue, that I think it might be that's a McGill related issue with that I think would be worth raising with the city government, would I be able to email just that email on screen? And if not, who would be the proper person to contact about that?
Thank you, Vice President Val. Val?
Sorry, I've been talking, but still muted. Yeah, I am the right person to email about that. Once we discuss, we can see if we have a current mandate to further that advocacy. And if not, then I can help you definitely write a motion and see if students and faculty representatives are think this is relevant for their constituents, and then we can move forward and add that to our advocacy list when we meet the various officials or when we advocate in various ways.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? All right, seeing none, we can move on to the next report. Next, we have the report from the VP Finance. All right, Vice President Pizarro, you have the floor.
Hi everyone, bonjour. I hope you can hear me. Yeah.
Yeah, we can. All good.
I never like to go on the agenda, so you can have a look. But Hassa, can you go to the next slide, please? Thank you so much. You can continue. So what do? I basically try to ensure the long-term financial sustainability of the society, and to do that, I work with every execs, every managers, to try to understand what are the current projects, what are the current needs, and to see if it's feasible with our financial situation. There is a creation of the annual budget that we're doing right now for the fiscal year, which is June 1st to May 31st. And there are 2 revised budgets. I did the first one in November. It passed a legend board, and then I will have to do another one in February. And I sign all of the contracts and transactions, which means I need to read everything that is related to money in the society. I need to have a look at. You can change slides. Thank you. We also have an investment portfolio around $3.5 million. There is it's a firm that is handling it, but I need to have an overview with the finance committee. We meet once a month. You can change slide. This year, what are the updates? One of the main issue that we had with with Full Orlando, we had the audit. That was a great year because there was many complications last year, but in the end it worked well and it worked fast. Especially it was one of the first year where most of it was done online, so it was new to us and to the auditors, but it worked great, and I'm very optimistic for the next year one. Yeah, you can change. One of the issues we had this year was inflation and the economic crisis. With our investment fund, we lost a lot of money, a few $100,000, because what they were telling us is the only people that were making money were the one that invested in oil and gas. And thanks to our divest from human rights policy, we were not, which is great. But that was a huge impact on us. And also, there's a few finance issue that we have to deal with at the end of the year with 3501, which is the first building that SMU bought. And we have to, there is the mortgage and the lease buyback that we have to reimburse. And with the change of interest rate, it brings a lot of complexity to the long-term sustainability of SMU. Nothing to worry about, but a lot of question needs to be answered. In terms of funding, so this is the main part of what SMU does. The main priority of SMU being the clubs. We have around $500,000 of funding. Around $250 to $300K were allocated to clubs, and the rest is for any other type of projects that relates to the students or the community. Those are all the fund. You can change slide. And one of what was specific to our year is that during COVID, we accumulated a lot of surpluses. And so this year we have a lot of application, but we will still have a surplus at the end of the year. So we are trying with the funding commissioner, Ali, that's been doing that for 3 years, to reach out to clubs. We work closely with Nadia, the club's rep, that is doing a fantastic job in order to make funding more accessible, to have more events. Clubs and services. So general help. Lalia is the club finance coordinator this year, and she's doing a fantastic job at helping every club. She's very present and very helpful. So yeah, she changed my life as a VP finance. We can next. Thank you. And services, I tried to work closely this year on 2 main projects. The first one is making finances more accessible to services. So making sure everyone has their specific needs answered. So for instance, credit card limit increase. I mentioned that at the last GA, but I'm still working on that with AV services. Now, the second project is the fee consolidation policy that I work with Leo, the finance commissioner. He's been working on drafting the motion that will be at Ledge Council maybe this week or next month. We need to work on a few details, but basically there is also a lot of fee levy that needs to happen this year. So I'm working on that with services and with Ali again, that is also the service club coordinator. We're trying to look at the long-term vision of services because they also accumulated a lot of money during the COVID, and we want to make sure that they spend it in a sustainable way. And we also want to make sure that they spend it in general because some of them are just accumulating it. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the health and dental insurance, I co-chair with Rizan, the health and dental plan committee. We had this year a lot of students were using a lot of the health plan and the dental plan specifically, and so that was great. So it's great to see that students are using the plan at its full capacity. I will try to put all the data on the website, make it accessible, and I'm working with PGSS and CSU, Concordia Student Union. The 3 of us work with the same brokers to try to coordinate on some few issues that we can still have. And next slide, what is new this year is that we have the legal protection plan that is in trial this year that will be put at referendum in a month or two to see if students wants to pay for it. For now, it's SSMU pays for it, if it's still student, but to create a fee. It's a full consultation and representation for anything related to housing, employment, academic, civil mediation, human rights, and small claims. So we'll see. We'll do consultation this month to see if students know about it, and have been using it, and if they like it, it will be put at referendum. So it has to be put at referendum, and we'll see. And yeah, that's it for me. I don't know if you have any questions. And there is next slide, anything related. Ali, you need for anything related to services or funding, and Laia for clubs. Those are the two persons to contact. And I want to say a last word about funding application. If you're a club, you can apply for anything related to your operating expenses or the event. And if you're anyone, just a normal member, or even if you're not a member and you just have an idea and you want to do an event or a project that will benefit the students or the community, don't hesitate. And if you're not sure if it would pass the funding process, you can still ask. Ali is very responsive. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much. We'll not be taking any questions concerning this presentation. All right, seeing no questions, we'll now be moving on to the next presentation. Next, we have the presentation from the VP University Affairs. So, Vice President Yang, if you can just put your hand up so I can unmute you. Thank you. There you go, the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, sorry about this. Sorry if there's like noise in the background. I'm currently having Senate caucus. It's running concurrently with the General Assembly that I'm also trying to run. But I did hop out for like my report, and with that, we can hop right on in.
Or do you just in general, like living in Quebec, one-on-one?
Okay, yeah. So essentially, the university affairs, in terms of like university affairs and representation. So in terms of like my responsibilities, it's still the same as like last semester, where I'm charged with like undergraduate Senate and committee representation, as well as like sort of Senate caucus, which is like going right now, and Senate caucus. Okay, yeah, sorry about that. But just like continue on, yeah, Senate caucus itself, student rights and like know your rights. Both like individual overarching support. Like I'm responsible for like advocating for student rights and also like the Know Your Rights campaign, which went on. Oh, sorry, just give me a moment. Okay, yes. Also sort of with like university like level accountability and policy review and developments. There are sort of like a few policies that are like passing through that we're like looking at, and that's something that like I sort of lead, as well as with like my senators and with like various other people. It was like research and advocacy groups. In terms of like various like committees and working groups that I'm like part of, sort of like this list, it's Senate Steering, Nominating Committee on Student Services, Academic Policy, Student Policy Committee, ESAC for Enrollment Services and Student Affairs Committee, well, which there are like various working groups, as well as like weekly check-ins with like the deans, senior admin, and also other important university stakeholders. Yes, moving on. So just like in terms of like academic rights. So my job is to support individual students who are academic right violations by instructors and supporting them in like their advocacy, as well as with holding like the legal academic roundtable, which is also known as March, and also like the Know Your Rights campaign. So this year we sort of like changed how Know Your Rights campaign is run for the winter semester. It's more focused on sort of like listservs, in-class announcements, like social media and like TV screens, And we're also like reviewing Charter Student Rights, which is coming up for review soon, and which happens like every 5 years, which we're looking at now. In terms of like some relevant staff, they are like student rights researcher and advocacy commissioner. Moving on, in terms of just like academic resources and libraries, so my responsibilities include just like library developments and like improvement fund, upon like which I've been like administering, like working on, as well as also like study spaces and like the physical development of the library, like keeping updated on how like the new VIC project, like the Fiat Lux project, is sort of like going on and how it's sort of like changing how the library is run, as well as like academic accessibility and like the relationships with like the libraries that we have as SSMU, and also like menstrual product access in library. There's also like the Open Educational Resources project, which is working on expanding like the number of OERs we offer and like for the courses, as well as like having different ways in which information is transmitted, and also potentially question banks in the future. So some relevant staff include like the Library Improvement Commissioner and also the Open Educational Resources Commissioner, upon like which there are quarters now, and it's like an entire team. And moving on, we also have sort of like some important like advocacy things. So important one that I've been working on is just like academic wellness and advocating with like the university to start exploring like some of the ideas behind like the academic wellness plan, which include like 4 credit health and wellness courses, as well as sort of special researchers surveying on like the atmosphere around like mental health and wellness, and sort of seeing how like different stakeholders in the MIGL community view mental health. Also sort of like working on creating like short-term accommodations, and as you can sort of see, like I am on like the working group that is looking at different types of like accommodations and like the needs for different cases. Another thing is just like exam deferrals and collaborate with like the administration to work on like how COVID-19 exam deferrals would work for students. Yes, moving on to sort of like additional projects. So like Indigenous Affairs, supporting like the Indigenous community at McGill and also like Montreal. So we're doing like consultations with Indigenous students to sort of like see what specifically needs are, as well as working with like Indigenous Affairs Committee and Indigenous initiatives at McGill, which is like gender and sexuality, administering like QUIPs, and like also hiring for a new gender and sexuality commissioner. In terms of equity, like working on equity complaints, looking at reforming this equity policy, and providing training to like the commission so they know how to properly conduct investigations. In terms of like gender and sexual violence, working like amending the IRP, and work with the McGill administration on OSRIS, its closure, restructuring, and reopening. Yes, also sort of like menstrual health, as you can sort of see, like has a much big presence on campus. So we're collecting data from like our monthly pickups to sort of like see how the things are going, and things are going like pretty well. We're also looking at potentially creating partnerships for distribution in the future and to reach like a wider audience. We also like received SPS funding, which allowed us to greatly increase and expand our distribution. So there will be like a lot more distribution of reusable menstrual products in the future. And we're also like providing menstrual products to other SSMU groups and faculty student associations. In terms of like the daycare, I'm overseeing like the day-to-day activities, overseeing like the budget, its finances, and also nearing the completion of like the negotiations that have been going on like 3 weeks, but we will be wrapping up soon. Yes, so with that, are there any questions, comments, or concerns?
Thank you very much. Any questions?
If there's no questions, we'll now be moving on to the next report. So our final report is the report from the VP Student Life. Vice President Koulibaly, you have the floor.
Okay, hi everybody. 1 second. I can move. Sorry. Okay, so this is my report. I'll just get started. So first, just a quick outline on what I'll be going through. So I'll just be telling you guys a little bit about my portfolio, going through activities night, briefly through student groups, clubs and services, mental health, family care, and then a few miscellaneous items. So my portfolio, what do I do? So I oversee relations with club services and independent student groups. I also oversee the mental health team. Family care is also part of my portfolio, and any other projects that relate to student life on campus. Currently, the departments that I oversee are, or the directors/managers that I supervise are the building director alongside the president, student life operations director, and IT. These are the committees that I also sit on. So I sit on the services committee, the clubs committee, the mental health committee, services review committee, the funding committee, the Black Affairs committee, and as previously mentioned, the EDI working group, as well as SAMOSA. So first, activities night. These are pictures from the fall activities night. Both activities night for the year have now been completed. The graphic above is for the winter activities night, sorry. Pictures for those are to come on our social media, so keep an eye out for that. Both of them were very successful. The winter activities night saw a return to the field house, which is great. And one thing to note is that this semester at least, we've had like an increased interest in volunteering for activities night, which has been awesome. We also did like a social media orientation week with Clay, which was also helpful in terms of like turnout, but also drawing attention to some of the opportunities that Clay offers when it comes to volunteering. So getting into student groups, coffee hours will be returning this semester. Last semester was when they first started, essentially just for student groups to be able to show up on the 4th floor every other Thursday. We try like different bakeries across Montreal, but also like you can come ask questions. The host is Inji, the club's coordinator, but there's also members of the finance team and myself for any sort of inquiries, and it's to hopefully reduce the emails that I get in my inbox. We also have an external venues guide sheet that is now available and has been circulated. There are a few contacts there for events that you are not necessarily able to hold in the university center or when you have used your hours in the university center. Just wanted to draw attention to Grits Cultural Nights. Those are starting this semester. You can't. Those are starting this semester. Those dates are the first groups that will be taking over Grits for the night. And showcasing like their various different cultures. So super excited about that. And there are more groups to come and more cultures to be represented. Even if you're not necessarily like a student group and you'd be interested, or you do have like with your group of friends, like feel free to reach out and we'd be happy to organize that. Student group internal regulation amendments will be coming. There'll just be things that to make sure that they match like other policies and any other updates that would be needed. So those will be presented at Ledge Council. Our social media is growing, and we've seen a huge increase in terms of like use for student groups taking over and posting and sort of wanting to spotlight and showcase their activities. A new update, Canva Pro will be available for student groups to use. They're like an extension of our own Canva Pro, and we're looking at weekend operations in the UC in terms of room bookings. Those will be still to come, but they're coming. So club audit, we granted extension for submission. Just sort of, there were a few like concerns with the forum and a few like internal issues that we were dealing with. So we wanted to make sure that all clubs had an opportunity to submit and ask all their questions as needed. Club workshops are upcoming this weekend. They'll be in person, but we're also offering a virtual sort of week of them. That schedule will also be posted out. This year, new and this semester, we're offering optional workshops. So graphic design and sponsorship. These are just to help our clubs and club execs sort of in their roles know what they're doing with their roles and provide more support for them. Club Portal is still working on that. I feel like I'll never stop talking about it, but it's still in the works and it is going to be great when it does come. I already mentioned Canva Pro, so my bad. We have seen an influx of club applications this semester, especially with a return to in-person. A number of groups a number of clubs that have been inactive for some time as well have been returning, and we've granted sort of like extension to interim status 5 months, but because of COVID and because of inactivity and not having the ability to complete like 3 events before you can apply for full status, we sort of like granted that extension. The club's rep relationship, I've been working on developing, just to sort of give the role and give the clubs rep more of a voice and access to the clubs. You guys probably saw her around at activities night. She's great. Please reach out if you have any concerns, comments, anything nice to say too. We did apply some sanctions, and there were some internal mediations that were needed between club executives. Moving on to services. So the services summit is also to occur this semester. We've decided to update, and as well as like our club workshops, but just to have it so that this round of workshop is more tailored to challenges and questions and concerns that we've seen throughout the year so far. And so we'll just be like regurgitating the same information. There's been meetings for Bill 96 translation like requirements that are ongoing to sort of determine the needs of our services. We'll be doing space agreement reviews for services that are in the building that are tenants, just to see their use of the space. We sort of adjusted how we have our relations with our services, just to abide by some confidentiality within different services, but also making clear like how the HR processes work within SMU. And services review is underway. Those forms will be posted for the large student body to be able to give like their own opinion and like inputs. But for the time being, feel free to reach out to services@smu.ca if you really have something great to say about a service or something not so great. Moving on to the second aspect of my portfolio, so mental health. So there's the My Wellness launch party, which is coming up next Friday. Honestly, right now, it's more focused on promoting the My Wellness. It's a portal created by Compass, if you guys don't know, and essentially just provides you with all the mental health resources that you can access on campus and off campus. And it's more tailored to like your needs based on like a survey that you would complete. Well Week is also next week. The calendar is on at Healthier McGill. And the My Wellness launch party is not only part of Well Week, but also part of Accessibility Week. Mental health plan and policy are expiring this winter. We've already started rewriting that, and we'll be meeting with stakeholders and doing our consultations as needed. Just to add to that, we'll also be presenting a fee increase at Ledge Council for this referendum. So Suicide Action Prevention Week also taking place in February. Mental health roundtable, we've seen increased attendance, which has been nice, especially with it being in person. Essentially, that's where all like any mental health stakeholders on campus meets. We have new mental health advocacy and outreach coordinators. Their committees and their projects are ongoing, and the Mental Health Commission and the PUA have been working on the academic wellness dashboard. It used to be planned, now it's a dashboard. If you want to hear more about that, feel free to reach out. Family care, so I sit on the JVSC CE Family Care Committee, which is on the McGill end. The family care policy expired in 2021, and so we've been doing research and work to sort of see how to like reintroduce that. We have a meeting with stakeholders coming up. Again, if there's something that would interest you, please feel free to reach out. Other updates, I've been working with some equity staff at McGill, primarily on Black History Month. So we'll be doing like a social that's coming up. We also have a cultural day event collaboration that we have with the McGill International Student Network and SUS that'll be happening in the building. Essentially, it'll be like all our cultural clubs and any other cultural groups that are on campus throughout the building. There'll be stalls, there'll be food, there'll be performances. It's going to be great. Everyone's going to love it, and you guys are all going to show up. Mini courses are to be revamped. More on that to come. And I also sit on the scholarship review subcommittee. I think that's all I have, and I stand for questions. Thank you guys so much, and have a wonderful semester.
Thank you very much. We'll now be taking any questions. Please raise your hand. Sorry if you can hear some music in the background. We are in a room with right next to some sort of show. All right, well, if there's no questions, we'll now be moving on to the end of our agenda. So we can have the agenda up. Thank you. All right, so with this, we have reached the end of the agenda. We are now at point 10. We'll be taking any motions. If there are none, I'll be declaring the meeting adjourned. Member Broughton.
Yes, I'd like to move to adjourn.
Thank you very much. We don't actually need a motion to adjourn, but I appreciate the enthusiasm. So if there's no motions to extend or motions to add anything to the agenda, I declare this meeting adjourned at 7:56 p.m. Thank you everybody for